My name is Rowlands. I'm a nutritional balancing practitioner. In this video, I'm going to talk about something incredibly interesting and fascinating, and I think it's a topic that not a lot of people understand too well. And it's a topic about love and what love is. And generally what I've found is love is an important thing to think about and to learn about. We live in a world these days where the word love gets thrown around quite a lot, and a lot of people don't actually know what the true meaning of love is. So an important and a very useful way of understanding what love is relating love to the 7 energy centers in our body. So if you're not aware of the energy centers, there's a concept called chakras. Interestingly enough, I can feel my chakras spinning. So I do believe it is a real truthful thing. They talk about it in pretty much all the major religions, and each center has an interesting kind of concept about it. So I'm going to talk about the 7 energy centers as it relates to love, because I find that there's different versions of love, and people kind of live from a certain version. And you can kind of see what version of love a person's running at, usually by talking to them quite a lot, and it will help you understand your own understanding of what love actually is. It can help you in relationships. It can see whether your partner is probably thinking a little bit unhealthily in terms of what their version of love is. It's a concept that's been quite close to me recently, mainly because I'm in my late 20s. So I'm going through a process called the Saturn return. What happens usually in the Saturn return is that people will have various experiences to teach them more about what love really is, because, as I say, it's very much different to what the general population assume it to be. And this way of looking at love has really helped me understand how I love, what love means, and how it relates to others. So you might want to settle down for this video because it's probably going to be a long one. There's quite a few things to go through, but I assure you now it'll be really useful for you to understand this, because it really helps in your development and your understanding of love. So energy center number 1 is our root chakra, and it's mainly based on survival. So anyone that's loving from this chakra tends to only love in terms of kind of needing something to survive. So in many ways you can look at it like a baby, although babies often have a very higher sense of love than most people think, usually a universal love. But you know, it's very easy to see the root chakra love in babies because they are totally reliant on another person for their own survival. They need you to feed them, they need you to keep them warm, you know, give them drinks, etc., etc. So they love you, but they love you in a way that they need to love you in order to survive. And you'll be surprised that actually a lot of the relationships are in this at the moment. You know, some people go out with people because they've got a lot of money, for example, so they can look after them, or they're poor. You know, in politics and in business, people that are kind of loving people from this lower energy center are very kind of brutal and quite deceiving, and ruthless. So it's all about obtaining your basic needs. So you love someone because they give you your need for survival. They give you a roof over your head. They give you food on the table. All this kind of stuff. So most people these days are literally just living to make ends meet. Living hand to mouth throughout the months, and they just live in to pay bills. And this is kind of a lower form of love, although it is love on one sense. So the second one is where a vast proportion of society is in at the moment, and you'll understand why. So the second energy center is around emotional and sexual love, and it's quite a selfish type of love. you understand this type of love because it's in the media, it's everywhere. It's the promotion of sex, it's the promotion of image, it's the promotion of, you know, this is, you know, you should love a woman because she looks a certain way, or you should love a man because he looks a certain way. And it's basically attraction form of love, and it's probably one of the biggest issues in relationships actually, because people will just go full head over heels for someone because they find them very physically attractive, and they don't realize that actually underneath they don't understand this person at all. You know, what's interesting is that you could put the personality of one person into the personality of another who, you know, looks more attractive, and guys will just go and try and be with that woman, or woman be with that man, even though their personality is not very good at all, or they're not kind of equals or resonating. So I'm sure you've probably been in a situation like this where you've gone for someone solely based on their looks, only to realise actually that underneath that this person is probably not well suited for you, and you have many clashes. It's a common thing. So it's kind of it's a romantic type of love. It's kind of the love that you see in Hollywood movies. You know, people falling for each other and all this kind of stuff. You see it on magazines, and you know, women wearing not a lot of clothing and all that kind of stuff. And you can see why people are really confused, because it's promoted so much on films, in the media, like I say, on magazines, and it makes people think that this is what love's all about. It's just about how we look. And actually, in reality, it's not. It's not about that really at all. People who love in terms of in this way in business and politics, they don't tend to be as brutal and ruthless, but they take advantage through sex appeal and emotional means. So, like I say, like most advertising, most people are kind of fooled by these sexy and emotional words, and you know, I see this in a lot of guys who kind of woo a woman, you know, often to get them to sleep with them, and the woman think that that's what love's all about. You know, if a guy sleeps with them or whatever, he must love her because um, you know, he's searching for that second centre sort of love, and it causes a lot of hurt for both people really, but especially women, of course. Um, so yeah, boys confuse women when they're in this second energy center by telling them that they love them, when really it's more about lust and this and kind of an addictive attraction. It's quite closely related to survival, like the first energy chakra, but it's more related to the survival of the species. You look good, so you know I want to reproduce with you, and you know, and for the survival of the species, which is quite a low vibrational way of thinking of things. It's not very enlightened, for example. It's usually very automatic, subconscious, and mechanical. So it just happens, you know, you just fall into things. Girls don't really understand why boys love them. When you know when some women know underneath that they're not perfect and they're not great, yet all of a sudden this boy is head over heels for this woman, and they don't understand that it can kind of gets confusing. And when in reality it's just mainly about lust rather than anything else, and hormones. Women that tend to be situated in this energy center are very much driven by creating children. Actions appear loving, but it is not deep love. It is more to do with biological attraction related to body shape, subtle cues, smells, etc. And it confuses people, and people wonder why they are more or less attracted to others. So it's really important to move past this stage pretty quick, because people are stuck in stage 1 and 2, and you need to start moving up to people are actually stuck mainly in 1, 2 and 3, which I'm going to go on to next. You want to be getting above them really if you want to be getting into some deeper forms of love. So third energy center is mainly about power and control. Basically a person loves another person because actually they can control them a little bit, they can manipulate them a little bit. They're very intelligent, so they can kind of, if I've seen women who are quite intelligent and they're going out with a guy that's not, is is a bit dim, and they'll kind of manipulate him a little bit, get him to do certain things. She'll use a body image to kind of manipulate him to do stuff, and that's a kind of strange way of love. It is a type of love. It's about power and control. So as I say, it's a selfish love. It's more intellectual level rather than a sexual one. It involves power, ego, habits of living, likes and dislikes, etc. It's more about dominating a person and controlling a person, usually just for sheer fun, just for the love of it, just for the fun of it. And things like gaslighting, for example, is a common form of that, whereby someone kind of tricks another person into thinking that they're kind of not thinking straight because they're really clever. Another person, will kind of manipulate another person into saying, oh, you was wrong, or you was lying, or you're being paranoid, or whatever. And it's a type of manipulation because deep down this person actually knows that the other person's correct, and they kind of get this joy out of manipulating another person. So it's really not a very nice way of living, but you see it quite a lot. So it's basically interacting with another person so that one party actually comes out ahead of the other one. And obviously that's a very unhealthy way of looking at things. It's quite common in marriages. In business and politics, in government, in business and politics, it's kind of about government and hierarchical structures, like churches. Governments having control of the people, churches having control of the people. It's got this hierarchical system. They say that they love the people, in the church, but in reality they just kind of manipulating them on an unhealthy level, and it's a weird form of love. So we tend to say that the energy vampires, it's quite a strong word, but you'll tend to find it more and more as you start to heal yourself and come into contact with various people, is that some people are out in the world to basically suck energy off you. They're not really giving. It's all about take, and the energy vampires are mainly in the first, second and third energy centres when they're living their life out of them. So anyone that's in the first energy centre, for example, is just worried about survival. They just need another person for them to survive, for them to put food on the table, for them to put a roof over their head. It's about take. So they're sucking energy from another person. Sexual energy is about, neediness, and I want you to reproduce. I love you and I want to have sex with you. It doesn't think about the other person too much. It's just about their unconscious thoughts, and their unconscious ideas of love kind of grabbing onto another person. It's about taking again, rather than this symbiotic way of loving another. And the third one is manipulation. It's not so much about sexual reproduction, it's more about intellect. It's about manipulating a person, gaslighting a person, making a person do things for you, a little bit like governments do, and people just give the power away to the government because the governments come across as this knowledgeable, almighty, I know what's best for you, when in reality we all know that they're talking absolute rubbish for the majority of the time. And you see this on the news and the papers. I mean, how people can still put their trust in these hierarchies is beyond me. So anyway, they're the lower three, which most people are living in today, unfortunately. So then we start moving up to the higher centres of love. This is where things get much more nice and enjoyable and fulfilling. So the fourth energy centre has a lot to do with friendship type of love. So a friendship type of love is about this kind of give and take. I love you, because you're a nice person, and I enjoy my time with you. So you want to give something to that other person because you know that you get something back, because you know that you might have a good sense of humour, for example. That other person might have a good sense of humour, so you want to go and take them out on a date, and because you're getting back this sense of humour, and they're probably getting some sense of humour back from you, and it's this pretty healthy kind of codependency of, it's more about giving. I I enjoy sitting down with this person and having some food because we have a good conversation. So I'm going to make this person a meal, for example, and just because it's more of a friendship type, not because I want to sleep with them, not because I'm going to make a meal because I want them to go and do the dishes afterwards or go and paint the house, or I'm going to make them a meal because it's going to keep them paying for me to live in this house. You're doing it just for the sheer joy of it because you enjoy that person's company, for example. That's kind of a fourth energy center, friendship, where you love another person like that. It's a less common form of love, but it's definitely a turning point for human beings. It's much less selfish, and it's really beautifully orientated towards giving. So it doesn't really matter if this form of love's with an intimate partner or a family member or a friend or a business partner. It's about how I can contribute to the other person rather than how I can act in an unhealthy way for my own selfish survival or needs or wants. So relationships in this kind of energy center tend to be much more smoother and open and less confusing. And when relationships are like this, it can extend to nations and armies and communities, and this is when peace begins to occur on the planet and in communities and in families. So love begins to blossom because you're not actually taking or stealing energy like the lower three energy centers. You've got the person's best interests at heart, and it's about kind of a give and take of equalities. But what's also important about this energy center is it's about your own self-love. So you've got to see yourself as being equal to other people. If you don't have this own sense of self, if you don't feel respected within yourself and you love yourself enough, you don't see other people as being on your equal. And when you can't get to a fourth energy level center of love if you don't think like that. So you got to feel secure enough in your own kind of power to feel that you don't have to manipulate someone, and you're not doing anything for your own game. You love yourself, you're confident within yourself, you respect yourself, so you can sit and be grounded and just give, and you get it back, and that's kind of this fourth energy center form of love. So it doesn't mean being so open that you get used for manipulation. It means that you're secure enough to protect yourself and you don't let others take advantage, but also you're quite open as well to give if it's in the right circumstances, for example. Now this usually allows a person to just relax and enjoy each other's company. So the key to the fourth energy center is self-worth. You've really got to love yourself and have a good sense of self-value, or you won't feel equal to another person, and then you start falling into a lower energy center. So fifth energy center is more about teamwork. Fifth energy center is about creative expression. It's got a creative nature to it, and it kind of builds upon the fourth energy center of friendship, which is about giving. So in this one, this is more about, instead of this one-to-one dynamic with other people, this has a lot to do with coming together with other souls as a team. So you're loving a group of people and you're kind of coming together as a team to expressively create in the world. So you're coming together as a team because you've got a higher goal. So you might be coming together, scientists to send man to the moon. So you're coming together as a group of people and you've got a lot of love for each other and you're friends with each other and you give and take and you really work with each other on this healthy level, on this kind of dynamic level to do something good in the world, if that makes sense. So it can be seen in practitioners, for example, who really care for their clients. So you really care, you've got a common goal, which is healing, so you can come together with multiple clients and you can all bounce off each other to kind of figure out what's going off, how to heal, how to move forwards. It's this care, but it's also this conglomerate of souls coming together to fix a higher goal. Scientists might come together to cure a disease, for example. They're not thinking about themselves, they're thinking about the greater good, and they're doing it together with other people as in creative teamwork. So when you love from this, it's not very personal, it's not really one-to-one. You know, I want to sit down for a meal with you. It's not sexual. Instead, it's giving in a more of a whole, thoughtful manner, more to the world. You know, it's not really about one-on-one kind of dynamics, which is really nice to think about. You know, so when you're in this kind of thinking, your personal relationships are usually quite orderly and neat, and they can involve some tough love. This is because if you're genuinely looking out for another person who is slightly different to you, it can be more about tough love. This is because you're genuinely looking out for another person, which is slightly different to being in the friend center, which is the one lower down, which is more about like just enjoying another person's company. So, for example, in the fourth energy center, which is love, you might want to take a person out for a meal because you enjoy each other's company and it feels good. Whereas on one of the fifth energy center, you want that other person to move forwards in their healing and development. So sometimes it can be some tough love. So if you see a person, for example, eating a chocolate bar, and you know that that's not good for them, you are in every right to turn around and say, look, you shouldn't be eating that. It's not good for you. Why are you doing that? You know, and that is a form of love because you've got their best interests at heart. So this is when it becomes more therapeutic, for example. So you're actually healing another person at a deeper level because you've got this other sense of tough love, which is important. You know, don't do that. I don't think it's a good thing. Not in an angry sense or anything, but because you've just generally got the best interests at heart. So the fifth energy center is needed for mental and spiritual development. It's starting to increase more rapidly and actually automatically on Earth. It's really easy to accomplish if you start a nutritional balancing program because it's the slow unfoldment of amazing talents and abilities and a loving behaviour and better health, etc., etc. I've tended to find that in my own personal experiences that as I heal, as I become more pure, as I become more aware of the world, as I understand more truth, I tend to be one that's very loving and caring and think about other people. But also, you know, I'm in situations quite often where if I see something that I don't agree with, I'll tell the person, you know, I don't agree with it. It's not because I want them to feel bad, it's because I love them enough that I want them to improve their own level of health and healing. It also allows my own skills and my own sense of self to come out as well, which is super nice. And it's really nice to see that in other people as well. So it's really important when you get to this stage that the people around you also have your best interests at heart, and they're also wanting to, you know, pull you up in certain situations if they feel that you've not been living in integrity. Because it's no good just you saying that to other people. It's got to come back as well because no one's perfect, and it's important. So, sixth energy center is about wisdom. So, sixth energy center is the third eye. Fifth energy center is the throat. Fourth energy center is the heart. Third is the solar plexus. Second is the navel. And root is the down by the reproductive area. 7 is crown. So wisdom, love from wisdom, is kind of a very rare thing for people to be living from the sixth energy center, which is wisdom. It is love which is mixed with some wisdom and knowledge and experience. So usually it is love. So basically if you're living your life and you go through all these experiences and you're gaining knowledge and you're gaining wisdom, it's about responding to the world and other people in a wise sense. So you might actually say something to another person that they might not like, but you might do that on purpose because you know that that's might be what's needed to make them shift their thought patterns and to move to a next level. You know this because you've seen it from experience, and you've seen it from wisdom, you've seen it from knowledge, and that person might get really annoyed at you, might like push away from you, for example, but they might have an experience that makes them understand the reason why you're saying that, and then they'll come back to you and they was like, oh wow, thanks so much for doing that. I wasn't aware of how that was holding me back, and I judged you for saying that to me, or acting like that to me, but now I realise the reason why you did it for my own good. It's quite complex. You're doing it from a wise point of view, very experienced. So it's kind of the elder sort of love, so you don't really see it until you're around 50 or 60. This is why Indigenous people, for example, really cherish their elders, because their elders tended to love the community very equally. So they would love children just as much as they would love the adolescents and the adults, for example, and they would have everyone's best interests at heart, but they would do it in a way which is quite wise. I suppose it's a little bit like, I forgot his name, but the master on Kung Fu Panda, where he does certain things that annoys Kung Fu Panda, but in reality he's doing it because he's very wise, and it teaches him a lesson that only sometimes direct experience can teach you. So as you move up to the sixth center, your love feels and you express it becomes pretty much the same for everyone. So that includes children, as I've said, and adults, etc. So loving all souls equally is actually a really difficult task for most people. Most are prone to favour those who are closest to them, such as family members, friends or lovers. Others are prone to love more those who agree with their point of view, or those who they can use in one way or another. So it's a very wise kind of love that permeates pretty much equally for everyone. So the last one, seventh energy, center of love. This is kind of the universal love. So this love literally connects a person to the higher self, God, guides, angels, and in doing so it brings with it an even higher type of love and wisdom to a human being. It also completes the cycle on the physical plane of existence and prepares a person for another type of life, a life that may be called life based upon love alone. As a result, love takes on a different meaning. Instead of love being a separate activity split off from other aspects of one's life, love becomes the focus of one's life. So people literally live in order to love other people and the earth and animals and everything. Love becomes one's reason for living and one's obsession. This is an even more selfless type of love, more non-sexual and non-possessive. It is about seeing how much you can assist others in a spiritual journey through life and assist yourself as well, since you must always include yourself in your circle of love. This does not mean that one gives away all of their energy or time. It's more about one's attitude towards others and towards life in general. One realises that life is rich and full, and one need not seek for love or riches or friends. If one focuses on giving out of love and service, love will be returned tenfold. So that's pretty much it for the 7 energy centers. Quick review: energy center 1 is survival, 2 emotional and sexual, 3 power and control, 4 friendship, 5 teamwork, 6 wisdom, 7 universal. Most people today are living from energy centers 1, 2 and 3. I would really advise you to try and start living from the higher ones, 4 and 5, and then hopefully in the future you'll be able to work from level 6 and 7. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to start a nutritional balancing program or get any advice, please send me an email, lewis@deephealingspace.com. If you'd like to join our members area, check out our website, www.deephealingspace.com. If you've got any questions or anything like that, feel free to send me an email, and thanks for watching.